Chapter 19, The Rich Young Master and the Poor Young Lady 19. These days Diana's life has been quite comfortable, it's just that every day there are countless people looking for her to connect with, which makes her a bit annoyed. The reason for this is because Augustus announced that he wanted to marry her. Augustus in City A is famous as a golden bachelor, the family background is long-standing, handsome and still has no scandal. At this time suddenly spread the news of wanting to get married has dumbfounded many people, especially the other party is still a little-known young lady of the Grant family, and that young lady, it is said that before is wanting to marry with Graham family another side of the family. Everyone felt that this Miss Grant's methods were formidable, although she had been in the Grant family for so many years and seemed to have no existence, but her actions were astonishing, immediately capturing Augustus Graham. This was the Graham family's future head. For a moment, rumors arose everywhere, even the other Grant family members couldn't sit still. There were even a few other Miss Grants also wanted to replace her. After all, in their eyes it was just a marriage alliance. Being able to marry Augustus was the dream of most young women in City A. This kind of good thing, based on what should it be given to Luna Grant? Very quickly, they knew what Luna relied on to marry Augustus. In short, it was because he was happy. As soon as he made a move, the Grant family members only had to be silent, and began to seriously prepare for the wedding. Again refused a person who wanted to go shopping with her. Diana lazily lay on the soft sofa, said, "How is the mission progress?" 2333 pulled out the mission interface, already 90. Host is really good, this time we can finally raise our eyebrows and breathe. She curled the corner of her mouth, obviously in a good mood. After the wedding, the progress can probably still improve a bit, finally it can be considered as holding on to the golden thigh. The investment in several movies is almost finished filming. By then when the movie is released, it should be able to complete the mission. Finally see hope, after so long, I almost had to give up. 2333 seemed to have a feeling, if it had known earlier that it would be like this, from the beginning it would have made the host choose this type of mission. She dissatisfiedly glanced at it, was about to say something, then heard the doorbell ring. The person who came was a man wearing a suit and sunglasses. She recognized this as Augustus's bodyguard. "Miss Grant, sir, let me come pick you up for dinner," the bodyguard respectfully said. She nodded, "I'll change my clothes." Because they wanted to prepare for marriage, Augustus was a dutiful CEO. Almost every day he worked overtime, to save time for the honeymoon trip later. But he was also very stubborn, even so he insisted on eating with her every day. Just this point, she still enjoyed it very much. But this point was also easily taken advantage of by others. After she got on the car, she discovered something was wrong. Although the bodyguard was still the same bodyguard, the driver was not the original driver. She sat in the back seat, pretending to be calm, and took out her cell phone, and sure enough, there was no signal. 2333, she shouted in her heart. "Host, I'm here." With her high intelligence, 2333 naturally noticed something unusual. "Host, rest assured, I've already sent a distress message to Augustus, and he should be able to see it very soon." She slightly calmed down, but she didn't let down her guard. At the same time, she was also wondering. The original story didn't have this part, but the plot had changed too much after she arrived, and the original story didn't have much reference value. Her eyes fell on that bodyguard, because the Graham family had developed too quickly in recent years, causing a lot of trouble. Augustus had always been careful in using people. She had also met this bodyguard many times. His current appearance here meant there were two possibilities. The first, Augustus was schemed by someone else. This person was an undercover agent buried by his side. They wanted to take advantage of this moment to tie her up, prevent the marriage between the two families, cause the two families to turn against each other and thus weaken the Graham family. The second, this time Augustus was also involved in the kidnapping, and she was just a bait for the other party. Chapter 20, The Rich Young Master and the Poor Young Lady 20. She lowered her pupils, long and thin thick eyelashes covered her bottom of the eyes emotions. With her understanding of Augustus, wanting to arrange an undercover agent by his side was truly as difficult as ascending to the sky. Like that, it was very likely the second type of situation. She actually didn't have much resentment, in the end what kind of person he was. These few days were enough for her to see clearly. In terms of feelings, he was disdainful of disguise. It was just that, roughly in his view, feelings this kind of thing was inferior to the Graham family's vast future. Moreover, she was currently just playing the role of Luna Grant, and hadn't really paid any real price. Even, in this stage of feelings, she had always been in a passive situation. But she always had some uneasiness in her heart. The mission progress had reached 90, she didn't hope the result was failure, and if she failed once again, she wouldn't have any more points to deduct. The car gradually headed towards the small road with sparse footprints. The bodyguard's gaze also firmly stopped on her, afraid that she would notice the abnormality and then do something crazy. The corner of her mouth twitched, revealing a doubtful expression. Is it to go to the farm? Augustus mentioned before that there is a farmhouse in the suburbs that the food tastes really good. The bodyguard was slightly stunned, and quickly reacted. He nodded. That's right. She hummed, tilted her head to look out the car window at the scenery. The road on both sides of the roadside trees flew quickly back and forth. It was getting more and more remote. More than half an hour later, the car stopped at a small courtyard. The bodyguard protected her to get off the car. At this time the sky had darkened. She raised her head, only to see the rolling clouds. She seemed to have a meaning and said, "The weather is changing." The driver on the other side also got off the car and walked on her side, heard her these words, somewhat unexpectedly looked at her. He believed she had felt the abnormality, of course, to this point still had not discovered. He had to once again evaluate her intelligence. But to his surprise, this Miss Grant did not show any fear or nervousness. Also, being able to silently capture Augustus, naturally was not some small character. He tensed his nerves and looked at her side with more vigilance. Obviously I was kidnapped, and have already arrived at your lair. How come you are more nervous than me? She softly sighed, glancing at the two people. The beauty who sighed was naturally also a beauty. However, her words just came out of her mouth, but actually made the two people even more tense. Passing through the small courtyard corridor, she was brought to the second floor of a house. Then she met the person in the room, a beauty. The beauty was wearing a bright red evening gown, her hair was pulled back, her makeup was exquisite, leaning on the sofa, looking noble and elegant. She was now carefully evaluating Diana, as if evaluating an item. Diana was not upset, standing in front of her casually evaluating. The beauty in front of her was indeed so beautiful that it was difficult for people to be angry with her. Host, plot character appears. 2333 in the air reminded, she is Violet Helga. Violet Helga. Diana when reminded also thought of it. In the original, Violet also appeared in the later stages, but that was after Luna died. At that time, the male and female leads were together. Who would have thought that the male lead was too flirtatious before and provoked someone who shouldn't be provoked? That was Violet Helga. Although Violet's Helga family in City A could only be considered as newly noble, in fact, in the entire country, the Helga family was somewhat famous. Violet had been arrogant since she was young, but was deceived by a playboy, and her family and the Graham family also had some resentment, so she sent someone to tie up Letitia, and framed the Grant family. Although Kenzo later successfully rescued Letitia, the grudge between the Graham family and the Grant family grew more and more, so Helga's family benefited. That being said, I am actually replacing the original plot's female lead. Diana raised her eyebrows, and after a little thought, she understood Violet's plan.